All right, does everybody have the file open on their desktop? Does everybody have that open now? If you are on your phone, you won't be able to actually view this, you on yourself, but you'll be able to see the window. You just won't be able to see, you won't be able to follow along with your sheet. And, I would suggest you might do a split window. So if you're using one screen to do it, you'll figure it out. If, the main thing is I want to walk through and get everyone to understand what these metrics are and why they're important to us. Okay. Does anybody have any challenges to open that? Yes, but I can't change any numbers. You have to enable it. You gotta click on the top and you hit enable or enable editing, and it'll let you do it. There should be a yellow line maybe across that'll let you enable. Is there anybody else having that same problem? Can everybody type in numbers? Yeah, Philip can. Okay, good. So yeah, if you just hit the enable, opened, unlocked for me. Good. So it opened, unlocked. Okay. Sometimes your Excel will ask you to enable editing. If you can't figure out how to fix it, easiest thing to do is to save the file and reopen it. Once you save it on your own computer, then it typically doesn't have that issue. Okay. Does anybody need more time? Looks like so. Andy's typing, or we're good. Are we good, folks? I know it's a little bit different because I can't hear you and you can't immediately. Yes, good to go. Good. Okay. Good point. Opening the file from online will keep it from inactive sometimes. That's right. Okay. So I'm gonna share my screen with you. Okay. Share my screen with you, and we're gonna go through the sheet together. Okay. So. Okay, here we go. Let's make that nice and big. There we go. Possible for you. 1 second. There we go. Nice and big. Okay, share my screen. All right. Okay. Okay. Does everybody see that? Okay. Nice and big. Everybody sees it? Good. Okay. So I'm going to make it a little bit larger. Actually, we're going to use the file that I sent you. These are some of the ones that you sent me. Give me 1 second here. Should be. Give me 1 second. These are yours that I'm looking at. Give me 1 second. Property 3, 2. Well, maybe I shut it. Just give me 1 sec. Just going to stop sharing for a second to bring up the file, okay? Does anybody have any questions before we get started? I should ask that. I usually ask that at the beginning. No, you're all ready to go? I like that. And let me say something. Definitely, you want to ask questions here. Don't understand something, ask. It's okay. I want you to feel like you can do that. I don't want you to make any mistakes out in the field when you're doing this business. So this is why, at the very beginning it's very important to get the support and make sure that you're not, putting yourself in a bad position, okay? So very, very important to me to make sure that you're protected. That's something I want to, do with you. I want you to know that obviously I can't help you if you don't let me know you need help. So all you got to do is reach out, okay? All right, share my screen again. Here we go. This is the one we should be looking at right here. Good. All right, nice and big. Everybody can see that, yes? Good. All right, so here we go. So here, asking price can be, anything really. Someone could put in, if we put in 250,000, at the property. That's the asking price. That's not going to affect necessarily the purchase price. We would still put in the purchase price as what we believe we could get it. It's good to start with, whatever the number is. That's a little too high. And obviously, I did it again. Obviously, if there's repairs, I'd like you to put the repairs or estimated repairs if you know what they are here. The reason is really at the end of the day, that's all part of the purchase price, right? When you think about it. I have repairs $50,000, I have purchase price $250,000, okay? So typically from a listing, what we're going to get is purchase price, which we can just do the same as here. If we have no repairs, that's fine. And we're going to get the number of units, so say there's 3 units, and it's going to give us the monthly gross, right, of the rent. So let's say that in this case, it's $2,500, okay? And that's going to give us automatically a per unit rent, okay, per unit rent. So from a listing, what we're looking for, or from the initial information we get from a listing or from someone selling a property is asking price, asking price, purchase price is going to be the same, monthly gross rents, and the number of units. Okay, everybody got that? So purchase price, monthly gross rent, and the number of units. That's all you really need to make this sheet work for you. Okay, pretty simple, right? Asking price, which is going to be the purchase price initially, the monthly gross rent, and the number of units. The rest of the sheet will calculate it for you, and then we'll get into the financing, sourcing your funding. Okay, so once we get that information, if we have no other information, we're going to make some assumptions. Okay, so the first assumption is that expenses of insurance and taxes are going to run us about 20%. Okay, of the gross rent. So 20%, we're going to charge ourselves 20% of this. This is the gross revenue, right? 2,500 times 12. That's the gross revenue per year. And the vacancy, maintenance, and property management are also going to cost us 20%. Okay? Very simple assumptions, 20 and 20 in the way of expenses. Okay? Now, if, just to see this third line, exact expense, if by chance they give me the taxes and insurance on this property, what I would do is I'd go over here and make this a 0, and then I would put the exact amount. So say it's only $5,400 a year. Okay? So I can make these 0 and put a real number here if I know what it is. Let's say I have all these numbers, vacancy, maintenance, and property management expenses, insurance, taxes, and I have the exact expenses for it. I can turn that to a 0 and make this $11,500, right? And that's going to give me the same result, the net operating income, okay? The net operating income is after I pay my expenses, how much money do I have left? So I got the property, I got the purchase, I got the gross rents, how much of the gross rents, the income do I get to keep after I pay my expenses? That's the net operating income, okay? $18,500, okay? Does anybody have any questions? We're good? So far, so good? Okay, good. All right, so let's go down to here, these indicators and what they mean, okay? So the indicators that we see here are telling us some information about the property already. So gross rent multiplier, you can see that we like to see it 6 or less. So we like to see the gross rent multiplier tell us that the property is a 6 or less gross rent multiplier, okay? It says 8.33. What does that mean? Who cares? What is gross rent multiplier? Well, gross rent multiplier is a quick and fast way to understand if a property is an opportunity. That's what these things tell us, really. These indicators tell us, right? So we come down here and we see gross rent multiplier. This explains it. So gross rent multiplier is gross rent and purchase price. Those are the two things that it looks at. So gross rent and purchase price. And then what it does is it takes the purchase price and divides it by the gross rent. That's how it gets its number. So the gross rent in this property is actually $30,000. Okay, so $30,000. The purchase price though is $250,000. Okay, so if the purchase price is $250,000, then we'll see that it's the same 8.33. Okay, 8.33. Okay, so again, what this is telling us is up. If I look at just gross rents, right, no expenses, just gross rents, how many years will it take me to get my initial investment, the purchase price, back? Everybody see that? How many years will it take me from gross income to get my purchase price back? So it's basically saying it'll take you 8.33 years to get your money back. So $250,000, right, times 8.33, sorry, 30,000 times 8.33 will give me 250,000. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions there? So we would like this number to be lower than higher, okay? Lower than higher. Why do we want to see it lower than higher? Well, if the number, say this was only 20,000, okay, watch what happens. Now the gross rent multiplier is 12.5. What's the big deal? Who cares, right? I mean, what does that mean to us? Well, if I go up here and I change the gross rent, say on this property, wasn't 2,500, it was 1,800, okay? That'll give us 21,000, okay? If it gives me 1,800, what happens is my expenses now, if I take them away from my gross rent, it doesn't leave a lot of money left over. It gives me what we call a cap rate of 4, okay? And I'll get that in a second. So the higher the number, the gross rent multiplier, the worse it is for us in the property, okay? The property is worse off. If you look at the cap rate, just keep your eye on the cap rate for a second, and I'm going to go back to 2,500. You'll see the cap rate jump to 7.4, and our value actually goes up, which I'll explain both, okay? So let's go down, gross rent multiplier. We want it to be lower than higher, okay? We like to see that number lower than higher, okay? Now, what does cap rate mean? Well, cap rate means if I paid cash for the property, what would be my return on investment, okay? If I paid cash for the property, it's easy to make properties cash flow. All you got to do is pay cash. Now, obviously, that's going to suck for return, and we'll talk about that. But the big thing for cap rate is if I paid cash, what would be my return on investment, okay? So purchase price here, $250,000, okay? Then I have net operating income. So net operating income, it's not gross income. It's not the gross rent. Net operating income is after I paid my expenses, right? Because when I'm looking at a return on investment, I have to look at the money that I actually get to keep. So if the net operating income is $20,000, then what it is simple. Income divided by investment. Income, $20,000 divided by investment, $250,000. That would be an 8% return. Does everybody see that? Any questions with that one? It's okay if you do. You should ask. So cap rate, which stands for capitalization rate, cap rate means what would I get if I paid cash for this property? What would I get if I paid cash for this property? Now, obviously, we don't want to pay cash for the property because there's some rules we have, right? There's 3 main rules that we're going to focus on, when we're looking at properties, right? Does anybody remember the 3 rules? What are the 3 rules? Anybody remember? What are the 3 rules? Do you remember? It's okay if you don't. Take it. OPM? Yeah, we want to use OPM. Yep. That's not a rule. That's something we want to do. There you go. That's one of them. Max 10% of our own money. So max 10% down payment, DP. Okay, good. What else? Remember the other 2? 10% max down payment. Okay, that's okay. 10% ROI. Okay. And last one is $75 per door. Okay. $75 per door. Okay. Everybody see that? Those are the 3 rules. Max 10% down. Max 10% down. Minimum. This is a minimum 10% return. These are minimums here. Let's just go. Minimum 10% return. And then we got this minimum. Okay. And you can write this right in your sheet, actually. 75 a door. Okay. And actually, if you can do this, everybody, for me, you see where it says minimum 30%? I actually want you to change that to 10. I don't want you to focus on 30%. I want you to focus on 10. Okay? Is everybody good? Everybody with me? So max 10% down payment, minimum 10% ROI, and minimum 75 a door. Those are the 3 things that we're looking at. Anybody have any questions about any of that so far? What about CMHC on the 10% down payment? So Tammy and Troy, when you put down 10% or less, less than 20 really, you're going to pay CMHC fees. CMH fees are typically rolled into your interest rate. That's your interest rate right there, 3.5 in this case. So whatever the interest rate is with the CMHC fee, you're going to put that in, okay? That's how you're going to update the CMHC fee. Does that make sense? So CMHC fee, or the fee of CMHC, can't change the percentage. What happens when you try to change it, Philip? Can you change other numbers? Yeah, you plug it in as part of the interest rate, Tammy. Troy, you just plug it in with part of the interest rate. It's going to be part of the interest rate. You can actually pay the CMHC insurance if you wanted to. And there's insurance on every mortgage. There's insurance on every mortgage. It's just either you're paying it or the bank's paying it. When it's over 20%, the bank pays it. When it's under 20%, they ask the investor or the buyer to do it. Does that make sense, Tammy, Troy? Just part of the interest rate. It's going to be wrapped up into the interest rate. Good, excellent. All right, so everybody with me now so far, right? So we have max 10% down, minimum 10% ROI, minimum 75 a door. Philip, did you get to change that now? Did everybody change this to 10%? This one here. Everybody change that? This one here. Everybody change it. Good. We good? Okay, good. All right. Let's go back over here. I'll explain why these are so important and why these numbers matter to us to be able to achieve that profitability, okay? So when we come down here, we see cap rate is in this case, it's an 8. It just simply means if I paid cash for this property and I paid all my bills, taxes, insurance, maintenance, property management, all that stuff, how much would I make if I paid cash? Well, I like to see a 10. We like to see a 10 or higher, okay? But you're not always going to see a 10. It could be a 6, could be a 7, could be an 8. But there is limits to what we can do. If a cap rate is too low, there's not much we can do with the property. So when a cap rate gets around 4 or even 5 is a struggle, it's hard to make the property work. It's hard to make the property work. So what's important about that is when you look at these numbers, okay, you'll see that these numbers, right, as they become better, you're going to be able to do more on this side, okay, financing side. The worse they get or the lower they get, you know, like in the way of cap rate, that becomes a much tougher property to make work. See, we don't really want to, you know, negotiate. Obviously, we want to negotiate the best price, but you can't ask somebody to drop their price 50% or, you know, 30% even is a stretch when the property isn't a distressed property. So I want you to recognize that even though the numbers aren't perfect, we can still make a property profitable. And this is very important, okay? So cap rate is just telling me if I paid cash, what would be the return on my investment? If I paid cash, it's saying that after I paid all my bills, the 11.5, I'd make 7.4% return, okay? Everybody good with that one? Any questions? We're good? Okay, good. It's okay if you have questions, folks. You ask me. It's okay. No problem. Okay? I've done this lots of times. Don't worry. I don't want you to be stressed or worried. If you don't get it, it's okay. You're going to play around with the sheet. You'll get it. I promise you. Okay, so R value of the property. How does that work? So the R value of the property is really, really simple. You take net operating income times 10. Net operating income times 10. Okay? Net operating income times 10. What is net operating income again? That's after I pay my bills. I take the 11,500 from my gross revenue. That's what I get to keep. So I take my gross revenue, my net operating income, my apologies, net operating income, right? Net operating income. How much do I get to keep after I pay my bills from the gross, rents? That's 18.5. So what it does is it says whatever this number is, multiply it by 10. And that's what's going to give us our value, okay? So even though you see our value is 185, you'll see that the purchase price is 250. Does that mean that the property is no good? No. It just means that the property is not as good as we'd like it to be. It means we're going to have to do more work on the creative financing. We're going to be better at putting the numbers together to make this property work. And I'll tell you something, creative financing is the way you make money in this business. It's not the property, it's our ability to work with these numbers on this side to make the property profitable. It's a lot of fun when you get your head around it. It's amazing. You know, what you can do with mediocre properties, you can turn them into really big cash cows and good returns. Okay, so in this case, it's $185,000. All it is, again, what is it? It's net operating income, this number here, right? This number here, okay, times this number here, times 10. That's all, times 10. Does anybody know why we use times 10? Anybody? Anybody want to guess? Or maybe you see it. If you don't, that's okay. Why do we use 10? Okay, that's okay. The reason we use 10 is if I estimate the value times 10, that means I would make a 10% return, right? That means I'd make a 10% return. So if I could get this property at $185,000, that would be a 10% return if I was making $18,500. Does that make sense? So if I go equals income divided by investment, what do we get? We get, that's a percentage, we get 10%. Does everybody see that? Right now, just put that down there. Right now, what am I getting? I'm getting 7.4. What I'd like to get is 10. For me to get 10, I'd have to get the property at about $185,000 to get it at 10%. Does that make sense? So we want to start with, we'd love to start with 10 or higher for cap rate. We'd like to start with a property 10 or higher with cap rate. That's if we paid cash. Does everyone follow? Any questions? We're good? We're good? Okay, so let's look at the last one, cash flow per unit per month. $513 is what I'd make per unit on the property, if I had no financing. So I'd make $513 if I had no financing whatsoever, right? So 513 looks wonderful, but it's not wonderful if you're only getting a 7.4%. Everybody see that? There's two rules that are broken here. What are the two rules? When we look at this, you know, are we putting more than 10% in? Well, yeah, if we paid cash, that would be greatly more than 10%. Is the ROI 10% or higher? No, it's not. It's 7.4%. So that doesn't meet the commitment either. Is it 75 a door? Are we getting 75 a door? Yes, we are. But because we are not getting all three of these, we need all three of these, we're not going to, you know, it's no good in its current state. Does everybody see that? This isn't going to work for us, you know, because it doesn't meet these three things down here. Does everybody see that? Make sense? Okay, so now we understand what gross rent multiplier is, cap rate and value, and cash flow per unit, okay? It's a 75 unit, but this is the assumption that I got no financing. Now here's the fun part. Let's get to the financing. So the financing, so we see the bank, 80% from the bank, seller financing, let's say, is 10, and I put in 10. And that seller financing could be investor or partner, right? It could be either one of these, right? It doesn't have to be, you know, seller financing, but 10%, let's say, is from seller financing, okay? And then, so we come down here and we see, okay, $200,000, right? At 25-year amortization at 3.5, which is roughly the rate right now that you can get. Then I have 25,000. That's the partner, investor, seller financing. It doesn't matter. At 25,000 for 30 years at 5%. Okay, at 5%. I come down here and I look, and you can see. Sorry, the 25,000 you put in. That's your 25,000. Zero. Obviously, there's no amortization or interest on your money, right? Then we come down here and we see. Okay. The first mortgage, this one, is going to cost me $999 a month. The second mortgage is going to cost me $133 a month. Total is going to be $1,132 a month. This is the yearly total. So over a year, $13,584 is going to go for financing. I come down here and I look and I see, okay, year-end cash flow, $4,916. Cash flow per unit, $136 per unit, and then I have my return. What's my return? 19.7. Does this meet the commitment that we were looking for? Does this meet it? Anybody? Remember the 3 rules. 10% or less, 10% return or higher. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. So even though I didn't get a 6 GRM, even though I didn't get a 10 cap rate, it doesn't mean that this deal's not going to work. Even though I didn't pay 185, I paid more than 185. At the current price of 250,000, I can still make this property profitable. Everybody see that? Okay. We're good? All right. Last little piece of financing at this point, and then we'll go through some of your other sheets. If I can get the property at interest only versus versus paying doing a 30-year amortization. So if I did 30-year amortization and I did the interest rate, because this is interest rate only, okay? This is interest rate only. If I had an interest rate of 5, just like this, and it was interest only, I come down here, what happens? If I'm paying interest only, what's going to happen? My return is going to be higher, and my cash flow per unit is going to be higher. Why? Because my monthly is costing me less. So now my cash flow is going to go up. If you look here when we're doing amortization, that's interest and principal, it's $1,132. That's the cost. But if I do it over here, the monthly payment is now $29 less per month. That's going to increase my return and increase my cash flow. So obviously, I would rather have interest only than pay interest and principal. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Is that good? I don't want you to worry about the interest only for now, but does anybody have any questions? And it's okay if you do. What about the balloon at the end of the loan? So Andy's talking about if we do a 5-year term, and there's no term on here, right? If you do a 5-year term with someone, even if it's a 30-year mortgage or 25-year mortgage, if you do a 5-year term, it means that your term is up at the end, your mortgage term is up, and you either have to pay the person out, or you can sell the property, or you can refinance it and pay them out through the equity. That's what you would do, Andy, in that situation. Okay? So you'd refinance, pay them, or you could sell the property and pay them, or you could find another lender to pay them. But remember something, just to show you something. In this case, let's say, Andy, you had someone that was giving you the $25,000. And let's say it was a partner or investor. Let's say we wanted to pay him 10%. Could we pay him 10%? So if I come down here and I look, can I pay this person 10%? Do my numbers still work if I pay them 10% interest? These numbers still work, right? Yeah, they still work. They still work. So if you're paying someone a good return, it's secured with real estate, often, you're going to find that people say, just keep the money. It still works. Keep the money. So Andy, there's a lot of different options you can take for sure. But at the end of the day, if they're making good money, if your investor's making good money, often they'll just renew the mortgage with you. But they could ask for the money. If you said a 5-year term, you could do whatever you want, right? You could do a 10-year term. But that's a good question. You just pay it out at the end of the term. So we don't want to pay down the mortgage ever. Yep, that's great. I'm glad you picked that up, Tammy, Troy. You don't want to pay the mortgage ever. You would like to, as a rule, continue to take the equity out of the property and use it for your investing. So you really don't want to go greater than 10%. Now, does everybody understand that, right? We really don't want more than 10% of the property. We'll keep refinancing as much as they'll give us, right? You got to remember, most institutions won't let you refinance more than 80%. So, when you initially get that 10% in, you're probably going to wait a while before 5 years you can refinance depending on appreciation rate. You want to get that equity out. Right, as quickly as possible. Now, if we come down here and we see that the appreciation, this is an appreciation table, okay? So, first year, second year, third year. So let's say over the next 3 years. If I say the appreciation rate on this property is going to be 5%, that means that in my first year, my property should go up to $260. 2, 275 in year 2, year 3, 289. Okay, so if I sell the property after 3 years, my profit for selling it will be $39,404. Just going back to your question, Andy, about giving back the money. If you sold the property at the 5%, which is actually just below the average in Canada, some places are going to be higher, some are lower. You're going to have more than enough money to give them back their $20,000 or $25,000 if you choose to do that, right? You've been cash flowing the property the whole time. You've been paying them 10%. That's a 10%. It's not unlikely that they'll say keep the money. Okay, but again, we can't predict the future. We don't count on this, by the way. We don't count on this. Okay, but if it comes, obviously we take it. Okay, so if we want to pay back the mortgage until we sell it, we can swing it. Yeah, you can refinance it and pay the person out, or just extend the mortgage, like extend the term to another 5 years. Yeah, you could do that. Let me show you something real quick though. What if a property went up 10%, 12%, and 14%? Okay, so if it went up 10%, 12%, or 14% in 3 consecutive years, that's double digit in 3 consecutive years. What do you think we should do with this property? Anybody? Do you remember me talking about this? Oh, you got to sell it. Yeah, you got to sell it. And let me tell you why. Let me explain why to you, okay? Because when the property gets up to $351,000, just to give you an example, if you bought that property today with these incomes, right, even if you raise the rent, so $351,000, watch what happens to your numbers. 3.5, we'll just say $350,000, okay? If I do $350,000, I come down here. Look what happened. My cap rate drops, and look at my cash flow. But that's not happening to you because you didn't put that money in, right? That's just the appreciation. If you bought it today, though, 3 years from today, right, and it was $350,000, it wouldn't actually be a good value property. It wouldn't be a good property for us, right? That's one reason to do that. So let's go back. The other reason to do that is this. So we said 14. Is how many years would it take me to get this in cash flow, this $100,000? How many years? Well, my yearly cash flow is $3,930. Everybody see that? So cash flow for the year. Okay, cash flow for year is how much? Equals this. Okay, so I make 300. There you go. 3,930. Now, how many years would it take me to get that in cash flow? Because that's what I'm giving up. Because what's going to eventually happen in the market? It's going to come back. It's going to take all this money away from you. Yeah, inflation and cost, everything's going to be. So if I go equals this divided by this, it would take me 26 years. It would take me 26 years to actually get that money back. Does everybody see that? So why would I wait 26 years to get this money when I can get it now? Does everybody see what I'm talking about? Yes? Remember, the average in Canada is closer to 5.5, 6. If you're lucky, I mean, 6 is even real good now. But you're closer to below 5.5, or just call it 5.5. You're giving up a lot of money, to take you forever to get that money back. In my view, it's time to sell. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Good? All right. Excellent. Okay, we learned something? Yes? We're learning something? Feeling good? This is just the beginning. This stuff's going to blow your mind. You won't even recognize yourself 1 year from now. You won't even believe it. Okay? So let's look at some of the properties you sent me. Okay? So someone sent me this one. Okay? Anybody recognize this one? Anybody want to claim this one? Whose property is this? Who sent me this one? Nobody wants to claim it? Okay. All right. So the asking price is $880,000. Okay. This 8,000 can go because it's I don't know why that was there, but $880,000 is the purchase price. Gross rents are $680,000. Sorry, $6,800. That was a discount. I guess they were hoping they could get. So $6,800. Number of units is 4, $1,700 per unit. Gross revenue is $81,600. Expenses, we're going to assume they're 20 and 20. That gives me $48,960. I look at the gross rent multiplier. It's a little bit high, right? Gross rent multiplier is 10.78. Cap rate, if I paid cash, is 4.56. Before anything, we're saying that the property, and you can see that. Look at the difference in price. You know, $489,000 is what we think it's worth. They want $880. Okay. Cash flow per unit is 55. That's actually after financing, but that's okay. We'll leave that there. Okay. Now, can we make this property work? Okay. Can we make it work? Now we can see that the person put 20% seller financing, or investor, 80% from the bank. Okay. The bank, they got a 2.8% interest rate. They're willing to give the investor 8%. Now the dilemma here is, can we get a 35-year mortgage? Well, I can tell you can go to brokers now and get 30s, so we could do 30 is realistic. You could ask the seller or the investor to give you 35. That's realistic. And 8% is not too far out of what you could do. So when we come down here, we look, and we see the monthly cash flow per unit is minus $10. We lose about $500 a year on this property, and the cash flow, the return on investment is infinite. Okay, but if you have an infinite return, that's nice, but it's not good if you're losing money per month. So how do we fix this property? Is there any, can we do anything with this property? Well, there are a couple things we could do. Okay, so one of the things is we can put our own money in. Okay, that'll help. Okay, so if we put some of our own money in, that'll help, because the financing on that extra money is actually creating a challenge, because we're going to have to pay for it. It's pushing us out of the way of actually being able to get the cash flow and the return, okay, because we're paying for that financing. So 10, 10, and 8, 80, realistic, right? We can get an investor at 10, out of pocket 10% for us, which meets the commitment, right? We're only putting 10% down. And then we come down here, and that 10% technically doesn't have to be yours. I mean, it can come from anywhere, really. But 10% is coming from you, okay? So we look down here, and we see that the cash flow is $144. That's good. That's over $75 a door. That's great. But the cash-on-cash return is 7.8. So that's a little bit of a challenge, right? That's a little bit of a challenge. How can we fix that? How can we fix that? 7.8. How can we fix that? Well, this here, there's two ways to do it. If we drop the interest rate, and if we drop it to 7, it's still not enough. Let's drop it to 6. 6 almost gets us there. 5.5. 5.5 will get us there, okay? Now, why am I doing that? Well, you need to know that, at the end of the day, if you can't put the deal together and offer it to an investor, because we're asking for an investor to seller financing, you have to know ahead of time what can you actually offer somebody as an investor or seller financing. Having this at 8 and knowing that you're not going to meet your numbers, that's not what you want to do. You want to walk into a meeting or talk to the seller and say, look, I can offer you 5.5%. That's what I can offer you. That's what's going to make this property work, right, for both of us. And if you don't know the limits, that's a problem. Now, the other thing we can do, there's two other things we can do, okay, I think, to make this property work, is if we change this to 35, and we can get a lender from a mortgage broker to give us 35, and we can actually get the financing at 40 from the investor. All of a sudden, look at this. Monthly cash flow is $251. Cash-on-cash return is 13.7. That looks a lot better. And look what I can do. Can I go to 6? Yep. Can I go to 7 again? Yep. Can I go to 8% interest that I'm paying him? Yep. Can I go 9? Yep. Can I go 10? You think I can go 10? Oops. Can I go 10? 10's kind of the limit. It's 9.8. That's okay. So what have I done here? So for an investor or the self-finance, what I can say to him is, look, if you're willing to go 40 years, I can pay you 10%. I can pay you 10% return, okay? If you go to 30 years, let's go 30 years. If I go to 30 years, I can only pay you 9%. Does everybody see that? If you want the money back in an amortization of 25 years, I could probably still pull that off. Say 20 years, I can give you 8%. Everybody see what we're doing? What we're doing is we're finding different ways to help the seller and or investor get what they want. Maybe they want the money quicker. And if they want the money quicker, it's up to us to find a way to make it work. We want to incentivize them for a longer mortgage than a shorter mortgage. So to do that, we'll pay them more money. Does everybody see that? We'll pay them more money. That's what we're doing. And we need to know every scenario we put in front of somebody that they're all good for us. Does that make sense? You see how the same property, we can change the structure and change and still make it work and change, what we're offering different people. Now it's a 20-year mortgage, right? So what if I did 35 years, right? I paid the person 10%, okay? So I'm going to go 9.5 because I don't want you to go less than 10. I'm still getting 186. I'm still getting 186 per unit. And what if I said to him, look, I can pay you 9.5% interest over a 35-year mortgage, or let's see what we can do on the interest only. Can I pay him 10.5? Let's go. Wait a minute. 10.5. Oh, not quite. I can pay him 10. Yeah, it looks like 10. So I could say to him, look, if you do a 35-year mortgage with me, interest and principal, I can pay you, and I'd probably do it this way. I'd go, I can pay you 9%. But if you want interest only, I can pay you 10%. Does everybody see that? So if you want 9%, I can do it 35 years. But if the guy said to me, I want 10%, I said, well, I can do 10% if you do interest only. Does that make sense to everybody? So what we're doing is we're changing the numbers around on this side to make the deal work. Does everybody see that? I'm changing numbers on this side. Even though these numbers aren't great here, because they're not, you can see clearly we're overpaying for the property. The cap rate is low. The gross rent multiplier is 10.78. It's high. Too high, really. But we still can make this property work by understanding the creative financing portion of the deal. Does that make sense to everybody? So the difference between interest rate for interest only and interest. So this is a normal style mortgage, interest and principal. This is interest only. Everybody see that? So this is interest only. So this is interest only loans. This is interest and principal. Okay? So if you don't put anything in here, it automatically assumes you're doing a regular mortgage. Because I didn't put anything in here, it's going to assume I'm doing a regular mortgage. And you can see that the monthly payment of that first mortgage is the same on both. Okay? But when I do interest only, it's going to change the face of this. If I put no numbers in here, it's going to be exactly the same on both sides. You see that? So it changes only if you put numbers in here. How many investors go for interest only? It really depends on the person. Is it better for the investor to go interest only? Is it better for the investor to go interest only? Yes. Yes, it is. And this is something that, because we grew up the way we did about money, we don't understand that lenders don't make money unless they lend, right? They don't make money unless they lend. So investors want to lend money. That's how they make money. You don't make money, or they won't make money unless they lend. So we, the individual, the investor, we can bring properties to them, and we should not have any challenge in saying, look, I have a great opportunity. Do you want to be a lender? Because the lender's money is only valuable if they can do something with it. Who cares if you got money? Who cares? If you can't make money into more money, the money you have is just going to die. It's just going to lose value because of inflation. And all you can do is spend it. So if you can grow money, and that's the area that I really want us to focus on, is learning how to grow money. You typically won't have a problem finding money for your deals because you know how to find money. You know how to make other people money. Share the wealth, right? So interest only is actually the best for them because the interest only allows them to get paid, and the principal doesn't go down. The principal doesn't go down. You still owe them $88,000, but you're paying them, say, 10% return. They're getting 10%, which is going to give them the most money. You can see $733. The same loan, so this is the same loan, $733 a month versus $697 a month, because this is an interest only. So they're going to make more money with interest only. They're going to make more money. For us, we like interest only because typically it's going to reduce our overall cost, this cost. In this case, the numbers are pretty close, right? You'd have to go 9.5 to make it close. And you can see that as you get, if I was paying interest only versus principal, look what happens to my cash flow. It actually goes up because interest only, if I can get an interest only loan versus interest and principal, I'm not trying to pay these properties off. I'm trying to make them cash cows. I'm trying to make as much money as I can on them. Do we have a term time in the interest only? Yes. You would still have a term. You could have a 5-year term, 10-year term, 15, 20, 30, 50-year term. Yeah, you'd still have a term. And the term, when the term expires, whether it's a 5-year mortgage or a 3-year mortgage or 1-year mortgage, that's when you have to either readjust or renew the mortgage or pay out the mortgage completely, okay? There's 100 ways to do that, though. Really, there is, okay? Any questions about this property before I go to the next? And this is really it. You just practice through these properties. I go through these properties all the time. I had 3 different properties that we analyzed yesterday, real deals with the bigger group in Canada, because, one wasn't looking for an investor. They were meeting an investor today. One was looking for a partnership on a rent-to-own, and one was looking for a partner on the deal. So this is the kind of stuff that happens on our Canada-wide call, okay? We'll get there. You'll get there in a couple weeks, okay? Right now, I just want to focus on understanding this sheet. But this is the sheet, the main sheet we're going to use, okay? This is the main sheet we're going to use, okay? Because this will tell you right away if a property is worth looking at. Because if a property doesn't meet these requirements, these numbers, you're not going to waste any time with it, okay? Let's go to the next one. This one. Who sent me this one? Does anybody want to claim this one? So is there a good way to estimate rent? Well, one way to do it, it's really easy, is literally do a search for rent in a particular area, the area the property's in, and you'll see market rent. But what I can do, give me 1 second, what I can do is give you, hold on 1 sec, a site you can go to, okay? That'll help you with that. So give me 1 second, I'll give you guys the site, okay? This is for mortgages, or sorry, for rents, market rents, okay? Hold on 1 sec. So let's go down here. Give you a link for it, okay? Okay, there we go. All right, so this is, you're going to see the one that's set up right now on it is. So here, let's go over here. So you can grab this right here, and for market rents. Everybody can grab that. This one you're going to see apartment rental rates in Vancouver. But this is the rentalboard.ca. So click on that, and you'll see that the market rents for the type of properties in Vancouver. This is an example. So everybody can grab that link, okay? All right, Andy, that's one way you can do it, and there's another way, obviously, is, and you can talk to a property manager. We'll always know in a particular area what it is. You can talk to your property manager. Okay. Who wants to claim this one? Anybody? Nobody wants to claim this one either. Okay. No worries, Andy. Okay, so let's look at this one. $227,000. Purchase price is $227,000. Gross rent is $2,000. Number of units is 2. That's $1,000 per unit. That's $24,000 a year. If we look at the expenses, exact expense, $2,000 must cover the insurance and taxes, which looks a little bit low, but let's just assume it's right. Vacancy maintenance, property management. Really don't want to go under 20%, so this number is pretty standard. That's where you want. And we look in the gross rent multiplier is 10.7, cap rate is 4.8, and our value is 124. So clearly, there's going to be some challenges. Now, the cap rate is 4.8. Remember, if I paid cash, I'd make 4.8%. So this is right here is the problem with the properties. The cap rate's low. That's really going to be a problem. And let me explain why. And we'll try to make this property work, okay? So we go bank financing, 231, 25 years, 354. We have the amortization is 12,850 at 30 years at 10%. When we run the numbers, we see that the yearly cash flow is 2,800 in the negative. Monthly cash flow is $118 per month. So we're basically losing money every month on this property. So how are we going to fix this one? Well, the first thing we can do is we can ask for a longer mortgage, right? So let's change that to 30 years. Now, even if we change this to 30 years, we still are losing money. We're still losing money. Well, maybe we won't, we won't pay, we'll put 10% in the property. Will that fix it? No, we're still losing money. We're still losing money, okay? Even with a 30-year mortgage and no financing, for the rest, we get 90 from the bank, and we put in 10%, okay? Still, we're losing money. So what's the problem here? What is the issue here? Why are we still losing money? It's because the cap rate, the return on investment, is 4.8. It's at the threshold of we can't make this property make money, okay? And the reason we can't make this property make money is if you paid cash and you make 4.8%, what happens when you add financing? If your financing is costing you 3.5%, that's going to leave you no money left over. Everybody see that? If you make 4.8% if you pay cash, if you start financing the property, which is absolutely what we want to do, we want 10% or less, immediately it's going to wipe out your profits, right? Because the cost of financing is going to wipe out any money that we make on this property. Just so you know, most properties in Canada and metropolitan cities, their cap rates are between 3 and 4, maybe 5%. You can see that when you finance these properties, you don't make any money. They'll break even or maybe even lose $100. Everybody see that? So if the cap rate of properties is 3, which is roughly around metropolitan cities like a Vancouver or Toronto, any metropolitan busy area, you're going to be a cap rate of 3, which means if I paid my property off, I'd only make 3%. Well, if I'm financing at 3.54%, right, that's going to wipe out all my profit. So when people buy properties and they try to finance them, they immediately can't make any cash flow. That's why this idea of, let's just own it. Let's just hold on to this property until we own it. That's the only thing you can look at, because if you looked at the income, you would never buy this property. You would never buy this property. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? So this property, unfortunately the cap rate is low. To finance it, we pretty much hit our limits. There are a couple things we could still try. So if we could get a 35-year mortgage, that would help it. But still, the return is 3.5, and we're still only making 37.5. What else could I do to this property to try to improve it? Anybody? What else can I do to improve this property? Now, let's say these are the limits of my financing. I can't get better than 35-year amortization at 3.54. Let's say that's the limit I can get. I've checked with the bank. My mortgage broker says, look, this is the best I can do is get you a 35-year mortgage at 3.54. I could raise the rents. Now, interest we don't have an investor on this one. You see, there's no money in the investor. We're putting up to 10%. There's no money in the investor. The investor's not making anything on this. Tammy and Troy, raise the rents. Well, you have to be careful. Unless you're in Alberta, you can't just raise the rents, right? And even in Alberta, you got to give them notice to raise rent. The rest of the province is pretty much, like in Ontario, you're going to have to, there's maximums that you can raise the rent. Now, you could, if your tenants leave, you can ask for any rent that you want if your tenants leave. But the problem is the market's going to decide what the maximum rents are in the area. Regardless, if you wanted $5,000 a unit, if the market says you're only getting $1,000, it doesn't matter that you're asking for $5,000. So we absolutely want to raise rents. So this is good that you mentioned that. You want to raise rents every year by the legal limit. The other option here, let's see. So you can negotiate the price. So that's a big one. If I can bring this price down, it actually will have an effect on my property. So let's say $257 is what they're asking for. Let's say if I got it for $230. What would that do? Well, there you go. $230 would give me 88 cash flow, 88 and minimum 9.2%. So it's a little bit too high. Let's go to 225,000. Okay, million. So I look here. and I see, oops, apologies. And there it is, folks. There it is. If I can get this property for $225, guess what? I can make it work. Everybody see that? But see, at least I know now. I know what this maximum price that I can pay for the property now is $225. Do you see that, everybody? You know you can't pay more than $225 for this property. That's the advantage of understanding this sheet, is it will tell you, it'll tell you what the maximum price is that you can pay for this property. It'll tell you what the maximum is I can give for my investor if I am using an investor. It'll tell you, because you have limits. I have to put 10% or less down. Monthly cash flow needs to be 75. My cash out cash return needs to be 10%. Well, if I know that and I start plugging in these numbers, I can see what my maximums are. Now, there's one more other area that we can help this property out. Just a quick point about the VTB. If we do a VTB, actually in this case, a VTB is not going to help us. And the reason is because the VTB, if we bring in VTB, the VTB is going to take away from our availability for cash flow. Now, the good news is that we can afford to do a little bit of a VTB because we're getting 97. So let's go back to the 5 and 5 that we had, and let's see if that works. Well, we can't pay somebody 10%. And still make the numbers. Our cash on cash return is still working, but this needs to come down. So let's see what the limits of that is, okay? Could I offer 7? No. 6? No. 5? Wow. 3? Oh, wow. So here you can see the problem. For me to get a VTB in, really the maximum, with this purchase price is 2%. So probably the VTB is not going to be something that we could do. But there is something I could do. I could bring in a partner, right? And if I bring in a partner and they put up all the money and I put none of the money in, and obviously if I bring in a partner, I'm not paying any interest at all, right? I'm paying no interest at all. What would that do? Well, if I pay no interest at all, the monthly cash flow is $66 and the return is infinite. So I still have a problem with the monthly cash flow. The monthly cash flow is not meeting the commitment of the units, right? Give me 1 second. I want to see something here. There we go. My apologies. We were still paying interest on that. There was an interest charge there. So if I bring in a partner, I can have the monthly cash flow of $97 and the return is infinite. Okay, so I can bring a partner in. Here's your one problem though. You're splitting that money. It's not a problem, but you're splitting the money, $50 each. But you remember you didn't put any money in this property, 0 money. I'd rather you see make 75 each on this property per unit. You got to remember that's 2 units. So you can bring a partner in and make this work. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? So partnership would be the go. So the 10% minimum ROI we're looking for is for the cash on cash return. That's right, Andy. That's right. Because that's all we really care about. How much money do we put in and how much we make it on our money? We really don't care about the rest of it because we borrowed it. It's the return on investment of the money that we put up. Okay. There's one more area that I can help myself on this property. Who can tell me? Anybody? What else can I do? We were here before. What can I do? Okay, the other area I can do is reduce the expenses. So if I could find a way to reduce expenses, that would help me too. So let's say that my expenses are no longer, someone changed the numbers on this, no longer. So let's just leave that as, wait, give me a second here. There. Let's say I could drop my expenses by $1,000. What would that do? You see that? If I drop my expenses by $1,000, look what happens. Look what happens. Cash flow jumped, and so did my cash on cash return. Now remember, this was 2,000. Okay, right? So 2,000. That's my return. That's my cash flow. If I can drop my expenses, and always we should be looking to drop our expenses legitimately. Cash flow goes up, return goes up. Now what does that do for me? Watch this. Because I dropped my expenses. Let's say I'm looking at a property. I know there's an area of opportunity for me to drop my expenses. All of a sudden, right? All of a sudden, because I dropped my expenses, look how much more I can pay for this property. Right now it's $225. I can actually go up in price and still make my numbers work. Look at that, 240, 245. Let's see if we can do 45. Yep, there you go. Look at that. Now because I dropped my expenses $1,000. Now 245,000 is what I can pay for this property. Everybody see that? If I can drop my expenses, I could end up paying more for the property. Now, we wouldn't know that until we looked at the expenses, but I want you to understand, nothing has changed with the property. We haven't, increased the rents. We haven't added an addition. We haven't done anything. What have we done to make this property work? We've changed the structure of the deal. That's what's allowed us to have the flexibility to make something that doesn't make money into something that does. And remember, this property didn't make any money. Everybody see that? Anybody a little bit excited? You still there, folks? Just checking. Yeah, good. Yeah, good. All right, good. Because you can make I'm telling you, this is the beginning. It's going to blow your mind of what you can do with mediocre properties can turn into great properties just by doing that. Remind me the exact expense again. Trying to take it all in. I know it's a lot. So Tammy and Troy, the exact expense, I didn't have that in there. That exact expense, I assume was some other outside expense. It could have been taxes, insurance. I don't know. I just used the number that was there. But you would only put the exact expense if you knew what they were. Otherwise, this would be 0 and this would be 20. And at that rate, if I do 20, 20% expense on this property, that's going to definitely change my numbers, and I would have to adjust, accordingly for this property. But you can see that if we put 10% in, 90%, we still would meet the requirement even with the 20% expense. Okay. All right. Okay. So it's been an hour already. It's up to you guys. If you want me to do one more property, I'll do it. Otherwise, we can wrap up. It's up to you guys. You want to do one more? Yeah, one more? Okay. All right. Let's do one more and we'll call it a night because what I want you to do for yourselves is this week I want you to take the new sheet that I gave you and I want you to try a few properties with it, okay? A new sheet that I gave you and I want you to try a few properties with it, okay? Let's do one more. Let's do this property. Okay. So, did I already do that one? Okay, here's another one. Okay, so here we go. 330,000 is the asking price. The purchase price is 330. Rents are 2,000 per unit. It's 2,000. It's one unit. Now, this is a single-family home, I assume, right? We see that we have the same scenario with the exact expense. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I would rather this be 20%. That's okay. Let's do that 20%. We're gonna make this 0. Okay. All right. So we see that gross rents are 2,400. Now I can look at this right away, and I can tell you because look at the GRM, 13.75. That this property is not going to cash flow. It needs a lot of help to make it cash flow. Okay, I'm not saying we can't make it cash flow, but now when you start getting into gross rent multipliers of 13 and 14 and 15, they're really tough to make work. So, and you can look, our value of the property is 144. We're paying double, more than double, for this property. Now, when we look at this property, though, we're still going to ask ourselves, what can I do with it? So if the gross rent multiplier is 13, the cap rate is 44.4, and the value is 144. Okay? If I try to finance it, 25-year mortgage at 2.99, I look what happens here. The yearly cash flow is a loss of 3,300. The monthly cash flow is 282. Okay? This is close to my house. I had to rent it for $3K before it got close. Okay. So even though let's put in 3K. 3K would definitely help it. We were doing 3,000. That would definitely help it. We can make this work with that. But let's go back to the 2,000. I want to show you something. Okay. So what options can we do with this property? Well, with a cap rate of 4.4, really, the first thing we're going to do is this is going to wipe out 2.99 is going to wipe out all of the money that we would make if we paid cash. There's no return here. We could attack the price. We could attack the price. Right? But how low would we have to go in price to make this work? How low? Well, let's see. To make this work, what if I went to $250,000? Okay? Would that work? Even at $250,000, this property doesn't work. what's the likelihood I'm going to get an $80,000 discount on this property? Not very likely, right? Not very likely. So I'd have to look at a different scenario. So can anyone think of a scenario we could use on this property? Anybody? The key is that the unit is 1. What could we do with this property, possibly, to make it work? What could we do? Split it into a duplex? Yeah, you could try that. You could try to make it, try to put a unit in the bottom. I'm going to go with Tammy and Troy on this one, lease to own, because it's a single family property. And I'm not saying, Andy and Brenda, you can't add a unit or, try to give it en suite. That's actually going to increase the amount of money that we got in, because we'd have to convert it, right? We'd have to convert it. And if it was an opportunity to convert, we could look at that. But the easiest thing to do is turn it into rent to own and see if you can make money that way. So what would a rent to own look like? Well, here's the good news. There's no vacancy, there's no property management, and there's no maintenance. So that's going to take away that cost. That helps. And also the rent, we're going to kick it up another $250. So 200, so it's going to be $22.50, because that's going to be part of the 250. That's going to be part of the rent credits that we take in. Now look at the property. We turned it into a rent to own. We took away the vacancy, maintenance, and property management. The purchase price is still exactly the same. Again, we haven't changed the purchase price. We've changed the structure. We made this into a rent to own, and look what happens. We're making $317 a month. Our cash on cash return now is 23%. Who's a little blown away by that? You should be, because this property was a loser until we did that. Everybody see that? We simply turned it into a rent to own, and all of a sudden we're making money again. It's amazing. It's amazing. It'll blow your mind. It'll blow your mind. And all we've done, and this is it. Yeah, and this is it. I want you to get excited about the creative financing part, because that's really where you make money. It's understanding money and how to make money from money, not property. Okay, property is important, obviously, because that's what we're using as a tool. But really, the creative financing and becoming an expert in creative financing is going to create massive opportunity for yourself. It's going to create opportunity for you to share the wealth and create wealth for others. Okay, awesome. Any questions before we go away from this? A couple people are typing. I just want to double check. This is a great first session. Good, I'm glad. But the gross rent multiplier is 12.2. It should be less than 6. No, it doesn't have to be less than 6. It doesn't have to be less than 6. We'd like it to be less than 6, and we'd like the cap rate actually to be 10. But in this case, it's not. It's not. And this is what I want you to see, Brenda. Even though these numbers are not perfect, we can still make them work because we understand the creative financing part. Okay? Because otherwise, you're right. We'd like these numbers to be better. But in the real market, these numbers aren't better. We can't always ask sellers to drop their price. That's not good enough. We have to be smarter than that. We have to be better than that. And that's where this becomes really, really important for us. Okay? Does that make sense, Brenda? You're absolutely right. We want those numbers to be as good as possible. But this is where you're special. If you can take those numbers and work with bad numbers and turn it into a profitable investment, you'll become a very valuable commodity, very valuable individual for investors. Okay, I will email you about that. Yep, do that now. Yeah, good. Those metrics are off, but the cash flow works. That's exactly right. The metrics are off, but the cash flow works because we've changed the structure. So these metrics right here are based on the basic facts of the property, right? The basic facts of the property. What we're doing is we're saying, even though this property sucks, and look at our value versus purchase price. It's huge. It's huge. But we can still make the property work. So the purchase price is less important to us. It's only important to us when it comes to profitability. If we can make money on it, we're okay with this purchase price. We're fine with it. We're not okay with it when we've maxed out our financing opportunities, when we've reduced our expenses. The only thing left is to reduce the price. But I would rather that we worked on the creative financing, reducing expenses, and last, ask the seller to drop his price. That's the last thing I want to ask. And I still want to get the best possible deal for sure. But I don't want the deal to hinge simply on, can I get this price low enough? There, good, awesome, awesome. I don't want you guys to worry. You think, well, we have to always get this embarrassingly low price on every property. That's not true. That's where the creative financing becomes exciting because it's going to create a lot more opportunity. And properties that were crap to you before, now you have the ability or will have the ability to change that and make it profitable. Can we wholesale and rent to own when realtor is involved with the seller? Yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. In the case, would we already have a potential rent to owner? Yes, obviously, yeah. We want a rent to own person first before the house, for sure, for sure. Not always happens like that, but typically that's what you want to do. You want the rent to own person first. You want to qualify that person, okay? Awesome. All right, so I'm going to close the window. I'm going to stop the sharing, okay? Good stuff. All right, so we had a great first session. I want you all to please do me a favor right now. I want you to save this link in your favorites folder. Save it in your favorites folder, okay? We're going to meet next Wednesday, same time next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Next Wednesday, I'm going to give you another series of files, okay? I just don't want to overload you, but it's going to include things like, the clauses we use in our contract. We're going to talk about, we're going to also include the legal document that you would give someone else when you were doing business with them. We're going to also get the things that lenders look at, like banks and institutions, what they look at to finance you, okay? So all that stuff we'll do next week. This week, I only want you to focus on doing 3 properties, okay? Doing 3 properties again with the new sheet. I want you to do 3 properties with the new sheet and have that ready for us next week. Obviously, if you need anything, you can reach out to me. I want all of you to get on the portal. Has everybody had a chance to get on the portal? If you haven't, don't panic. It should happen today or tomorrow. We can get on the portal. I'd like all of you to get on to Momentum, the on-demand Momentum. That's where I'd like you all to start, is the on-demand Momentum, and or depending on the program that you have, lease options. I'd love you to attack those 2 first, and I want you to start spending some time learning, and I want you to take some action earning, okay? And of course, I want you to show up to these meetings. So next week, we're Wednesday again. After next week's Wednesday meeting, we'll talk about the new room that you're going to be in with the Canada-wide team and what we're going to be doing moving from there. So all I want you to focus this week is 3 more properties, just 3 more properties. Try the sheet out, play around with it. If you have any questions, reach out, and keep learning. Just keep learning. And I promise you, you won't recognize yourself a year from now, okay? Excellent. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap up? We're good? If you're good, type in yes or Y. Type in yes or Y if you're good. Awesome. Awesome. Good news.